Wisdom podcast. I'm here today with the amazing Calvin Livingston, who is a certified 9D transformational breathwork facilitator. Say that 10 times fast. I dare you. Okay, now we're going to dive in and find out what exactly that is. Like, what is a 9D breathwork facilitator? We're going to learn a little bit about Calvin's story, and then we're going to dive into what he has to offer us and what his mission is. But first, get your water. You know the drill. The codes will be flowing. So we know that water is a catalyst. Water is an amplifier. We set the intention now that the codes flow into the water. They are amplified. We drink them. Na zdrowie, that's cheers in Polish. And it supports our body in this magical ascension journey that we're all bumping up against each other for. So let's dive in with Calvin. Hello, Calvin. How are you?
I am blessed and wonderful. Thank you.
It is so good to have you on the podcast. I am super, super excited to share with everyone the magic that you are creating in the world. And in particular, I want to celebrate you up front for being a pioneer in the masculine world, really. You know, I have seen so many men leaning into the healing journey and actually, you know, getting kind of confused and needing to be taken by the hand in order to encourage that, support that. And I really see you as a trailblazer in this field. And so I would love for you in opening, we're just going to dive straight in to share with us a little bit about what your mission is in the world in general, but then in particular with your brotherhood.
Okay. Yeah. So my mission is to make an impact, to be of service in whatever way that looks. The further I dive into these modalities with the breath work and the brotherhood and the community and the connection, it's all leading me to the holistic side of health and wellness. So with the brotherhood, it's bringing that masculine man back out, that inner fire, that whether you're a husband, a father, a son, a brother, it's like bringing that inner man back out and turning inwards and doing the work, doing the deep work inside to find that spark in your life again. The past couple of years, I've been on this mission, this path to create a brotherhood and to create community. And then when I came across the Sacred Sons, I was like, you know, I mean, just looking at their stuff, you know, their socials, I was like, that looks like pretty badass. So I want to go check it out. And so I flew to Arizona to an EMX, which is an embody the masculine experience. And you get to throw on boxing gloves, you get to fight people. But you also get to, there's ritual and there's sacred ceremony, and you get to get in circles and people will get emotional and you get to like show emotions and be in that way. Then we get to, there's playing, you know, playing football and doing these things that we've kind of lost connection with. And it really sparked it, you know, that signified to me, I guess, is what it did. It was like, I'm on the right path and this is what I want. I want this connection. I want this brotherhood. I want this community. Because I'm not only building a brotherhood, I'm wanting to build community, a co-ed, a collective. But the men's work, the more I dive into it, the more need I see, the more men I see out there that have just lost that spark. They've lost that fire. You know, it's the bullshit 9 to 5 work, you know, where you got work, you got family, you go to work all day, you come home, you sit on the couch, you eat potato chips, and then you go to sleep and you wake up, wash, rinse, repeat. And so many people are falling into this path, this cycle of just repetitiveness, and they get what they think is comfortable. But then come the health issues, you know, the high blood pressure, the cholesterol, the anxiety, the regret, the shame, the guilt, the fear, the anger, all this stuff, you know, and it's just, we're constantly living in this state, this active state of fight or flight, you know, everybody's breathing upper chest, just breathing super fast all day because we're always in this anxious state. So I think reconnecting back to our true selves, turning inwards, getting that heart connection, leading with our heart is where it's at for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Let's talk about then the physical body. So you talk about that holistic vision of health, right? How do we really heal mind, body, and spirit? You mentioned what men are experiencing now. And I just want to like witness all of the men listening or watching this, that I am like holding the fire and holding the vision and holding the frequency with you of healing and the desire and willingness to live your authentic truth. We are celebrating you. And I know that so many men, as you talk about the physical experience for a man, you know, the traditional man is grinding at work. He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders financially. Maybe he's partaking in things to numb out. And it's like a cycle of the same thing over and over and over again. That takes a toll on our physical body. And then we end up sick or depressed or any number of things, or divorced, or, you know, isolated. All of these things that the pain in the physical body that's screaming at us can lead us to. And so we see this prevalent in our society. And so on the other end of that, what I want to ask you is kind of a twofold question. The first part of it is within Sacred Sons, and I would encourage everyone to go check that out. I know on Facebook, it's at Sacred Sons. There's a page. It's absolutely amazing and inspiring. I would like for you to share with us, you know, what is that transformation for the physical being and the spirit? What does that look like within, like, what does that process kind of look like for you? Because you can speak on your own experience. And then what does that translate to in the physical body? Like, what's the process? And then where have you arrived to? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's that, you know, it's taking that first step, you know, and the disassociation in the trauma realm is the disconnection between the mind and the body. You know, this huge, massive 5-day somatic trauma healing immersion I just went on, you know, with the top leaders in the world, Peter Levine, Gabor Mate, Bessel van der Kolk, Betsy Politan, all these people were there. And that's what it all came down to, was we need to turn, we need to get back into our bodies, you know, and trauma and disease. Trauma, so all known disease has been linked to trauma in some way. So as we turn inward and start working on the somatics, the soma, the body, that's where it starts. So like with Sacred Sons, like what they're doing, from what I don't, you know, I'm not like, I'm taking their leadership training. I've been to one of their EMXs, so I'm still fairly new to Sacred Sons. But what I've seen is like, is that connection where they are getting people to connect back into their bodies and to really turn inward. And that's what called out so big to me, because that's what I'm trying to do that's what I do with lean in breathwork, you know, is like we're quieting the mind and we're entering the body. And that's where the magic happens. That's where, you know, that's where all the bullshit's stored. The trauma, the limiting beliefs, the negative thought behaviors and patterns is all stored in the subconscious. And through this style of breathwork, that's what we're doing, is we're temporarily shutting down blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, the monkey mind, the inner critic. That's becoming dormant, and we're getting into the subconscious, where you don't even have to know what it is you want to let go of that needs to come out. Your body's going to tell you. You just have to have the capacity to feel. So I think everything to me right now is screaming out to get back in the body. We need to move. We need to be doing yoga. We need to be exercising. We need to be breathing, have breath awareness. That's where it all starts, is even those little things. You can switch by the morning, take a 30-minute walk, zone 1 cardio, just a walk. That's the first thing I do. I wake up in the morning, I'll go take a cold shower, and then I go on a 30-minute walk, fasted walk without eating. And I mean, anybody can do a 30-minute walk. It's very, I mean, most people, it's very, very low, you know, physical endurance, but that walk, I mean, that'll do that for 30 days and watch what happens to your life. You know, it's like these little steps. You take these little steps and then they lead to bigger steps and bigger steps.
Yeah, what stands out to me there is shifting the purpose for body movement from aesthetic to soul, right? We have been conditioned to exercise, to lose weight, and to do it so that we look good for the external world, when in reality, if we shift that focus and make the movement and the breath about ourselves, then everything else will naturally fall into place. And we get to be that whole vessel that shows up shining and then overflowing into the world around us.
Absolutely. You know, and it's, I mean, that's why I named my company Lean In Breathwork. You know, we need to lean into that discomfort. On the other side of discomfort, is a life beyond your wildest dreams, you know, but we need to get past that, you know. And the greatest fear is the fear of the unknown, right? So you get frightened. What is this going to look like? You know, I have people do that all the time in breath work. Like, do I need to like be a professional breather? And I'm like, no, you don't. You know, you don't ever have, even if you've never tried breath work ever in your life, you know, I have that happen. I did it for a 93-year-old woman that came in and did some breath work and just had a massive breakthrough and seeing like all these things and had all these feelings. You know, it doesn't take, you just have to be willing. You know, what I tell people, and it is, you know, I tell people no expectations. This one's a little tough for some people, is full surrender, but just be open to the experience. You know, it's just come in, just don't no expectations, and then just follow your breath. Let your breath guide you. And then, you know, the most beautiful part about it is like you got one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. If you want to go deeper, breathe deeper. If it gets to be too overwhelming and you want to come out, hit the brakes, slow your breathing down, come back into your body. And then when you're comfortable, you can jump back into the active breath work.
Yeah. And something that I've learned from the energetic realm is that because we have shifted collectively as a humanity, because the earth has been able to raise her frequency through our shift and our support, a co-creation, right? That we now have access, that channel to source, to the prime creator. That channel has been really reopened because we've been pinched off for so long. And what that means when it comes to the breath is that our breath in is now an amplified holy breath of life. So when we are intentionally breathing in that life force energy, everything changes. And what I love about breath work and yoga and really moving with intention and like qigong and all of these different modalities that not only work with your physical body, but work with your field, but it's bringing you all back into your body. I forget. I totally just lost my train of thought. Okay, hold on. Let me bring it back. Is that, it no longer has to be like the grind. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, I gotta go work out again today. Like, once you get past that initial like resistance to it, and you tell me how you feel about this, but once you get past that initial resistance, it's like, oh, give me more. I can't get enough of this. It is so fulfilling.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, once you get on step foot on the other side, you even get to see a glimpse of it. You're not going to want to go back.
Taste.
You know, yeah, just a taste, you know, and that's how it is with these breathwork journeys. Like you do one journey, and if you really go for it, you really push yourself, and you know, just I even have people sometimes like rate before you, like we set intentions and whatnot, but it's like rate how far you want it. What do you want to do today? Like how far are you going to push yourself from on a scale from 1 to 10? You know, are you going to do a 1 and just kind of just listen to it and get through it, or are you going to hit the gas and really go for it? You know, and if you breathe deep and you do these full, you know, active breaths, I mean, there's no way that you're not going to feel something from it. Whatever that experience may be, it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, and then the physical side of things is absolutely, you know, once you start connecting that mind body connection and you start moving the body, that was one of the most beautiful things I heard Bessel van der Kolk speak about. You know, he's been doing like all these like huge studies, these scientific studies on, you know, psychedelics and yoga, polyvagal theory in with yoga. And he was to hear him on stage in front of 600 people and then thousands of people live saying that one of the most beneficial things you can do is yoga, you know, and I've been like heavily involved with yoga, and it just made me feel so good because the breath work and yoga go hand in hand. You know, you're learning to connect your breath with movement. And that's where it all comes down to, is that movement. You know, we need to move our bodies. You know, these traumas, all this shit that we've suppressed and bottled up and stored in our bodies, it gets lodged in our body, and we don't because we don't know how to release it. You know, we don't know how to let it go. And then when it gets stuck in our body, it turns to disease, it turns to anxiety, to stress, to panic, to fear, and all this other, you know, autoimmune disorders and cancer. I mean, there's so many different things that it leads to. So as you start removing these traumas and clearing this stuff out and breathing and moving, your life gets better. You start coming off the medications, you start healing yourself.
It's like once you can become a unified field within, the external world must reflect that. right?
100%. Yeah. Absolutely. The thoughts. Yep. It's all about, I've been, diving into Joe Dispenza a lot too for the past 7 years. I'm looking at actually going to Texas to one of his retreats. But it really is, it's like when you really, it's like with manifesting, I've been doing that a lot and getting very specific, like writing it down to the penny, to the dots of getting very specific. But then it's also getting into like a meditative state where you feel what it feels like to already have this. What does that feel like? What does it taste like? What does it look like? And when you get that specific, the universe has no way but to respond back to you.
Mm.
And I've
And
personally seen that happen.
as we clear the trauma from our body, our ability to manifest more rapidly, that happens, right?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, I want to go back a little bit to the masculine thing again.
Yeah.
And the brotherhood. And I want to talk about tears. Because this is such a huge stigma in the world. I have seen the father of my children, I have seen him soften over as humanity has been softening over the past few years. But this stigma around like, suck it up, no tears. This is very common in the sports world, in school. It's everywhere for men. And what I would like to ask you is, when you started, and because I know that Sacred Sons has they do these practices where men, you do cry, and you support one another through that. May I ask you to share a little bit about tears in whatever way feels aligned for you, and how actually allowing that emotion to move shifted your physical being and your life?
Yeah. So my perception on don't cry is it's bullshit. And that's exactly how I was raised. Was don't cry, don't be a punk, and like if somebody challenges you, then you better not back down, and you got to be this tough guy. And that's how I was raised my whole life. And then it wasn't even Sacred Sons. It was when I went to Indonesia to do the somatic breathwork stuff that I seen, people just big, strong tattooed guys from New Zealand and just amazing men break down and cry. And I was like, wow, that is powerful and that is beautiful. And that's where I really learned. That's where I really started tapping into my feminine side, because I've always been so masculine. It was like, because I had to be. It was survival mode. Like when I grew up, my dad was a great man, full of love, but he was a Vietnam War veteran and he was a heavy alcoholic. And then him and my mom split when I was about 12, 13 years old. And my three brothers went with my mom. I stayed with my dad. So I had to hold that shit down, and I had to be the man. I had to be the father to my father when I was at a young age. And it was like, yeah, you couldn't cry, you couldn't, it was so different, but then, so going through all that and then seeing this, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then when I did go to Sacred Sons, I was very comfortable at that point with that like feminine, masculine side. And I had started to learn how to incorporate it, and I didn't personally have like a breakdown at Sacred Sons, but I was there to hold the brothers that did and that needed that, and it was beautiful and it was amazing. And I think, what I've been told, and I really love this quote, is tears are joy finally coming home, and it's beautiful to let it out, in whatever way, that's why I think with Sacred Sons, what's special about it is there's so many ways to let it out. You can let it out through being held by another brother or a whole group of brothers. You can let it out by playing sports and playing some activities like you used to do as a kid. You can let it out when you put on boxing gloves and fight another man. You can let it out with dance and music and movement. That's another massive thing that I'm bringing into this community and this breathwork stuff, is I got these drums now and I got guitars and, fire dancing and like just all these things to let go. And who gives a shit what you look like? Who cares what it looks like? Close your eyes and just listen to the music and move your body. That's when you really feel that joy and that happiness is in those moments, those present moments.
Yeah, absolutely. So the man that you witnessed crying, he opened a door for you, right? Like and you're opening doors for people as you're willing to hold the space. I really want to, my goal here is to like open the door for some men here. And so I want to ask you, what was that initial experience like for you when you saw that man crying, and when you actually started allowing yourself to connect with your feminine side? Was that scary for you?
It was definitely, it was different, but it was I don't know if I would say scary, but it was powerful. It was moving, because I was like, wow. And luckily, it was I think we had 40 people total, and there was a lot of women and a pretty good amount of men. But what was so beautiful about having the co-ed side of things is I would have the women come up to me and they'd be like, looking at you as a first impression, you're a tall guy with tattoos, you're kind of intimidating. But then once we get close to you, you feel so safe. And that made me feel really good. And that's what I've held on to that whole time is that safety part. And that's like that's my thing. That's my intention every time I create a container for breathwork is for people to feel safe, And so I think that's where my feminine really came in, is like, is that safety figure, you like nurturing, protective, wise kind of figure. But no, I've really, it took me like, 38 years or something to to tap into my feminine side. But when I did, I was like, this is okay, and then like I think, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but like just all those ideologies of what I had thought life was supposed to be like, or the rules or whatever, it's all bullshit, and I just let everything go. Even my perspectives around relationships, just let it go. And then just kind of going with the flow of life now, and feeling the feelings and sitting with myself and my feelings and noticing it, and knowing that it's all, there's something to learn from all of this, and being able to look at it with that perspective, with a different lens, has been magical.
Yeah. Just be the observer, right?
Yeah.
It's so liberating to find a place, a sense of neutrality. For me, it's kind of it's a back and forth. I'm not always neutral, but I'm always observing, like, why did I react in that way? Or why did that ping me in that way? Ooh, why did that make my heart go up a little bit? Or, what's going on with my nervous system, without over assessing, but like really just observing, remaining curious. And that gets easier as we work with our nervous system through everything that you offer. So, okay, let's go back. Let's go back.
Okay.
Let's go back. I would love to hear a little bit about how you got on the journey, like a little bit about your awakening story and how you were led into your mission work. And you can go like as deep as you want to go into that. It's up to you.
Yeah. No, thank you. So, I mean, leading me to my awakening journey, I guess we can go back even further.
Well, okay. So some people have that, like that decisive moment, like they lost their job or they had a mystical experience, but for some it's a little more subtle. So that's kind of what I want to get at. Like, tell us what spurred you, because I just want people to be able to identify with the variety of awakenings.
Yeah. No, and it is. I think the story, or not the story, but I think the path is important. We gotta fucking let go of the stories. But so the path, for me was, like I said, growing up to not cry, to not show emotions, to bottle it all up, and then it led to disconnecting from my body and finding external ways to not feel. So I got into drugs and alcohol for many years, 13 years. I was 28 years old when I ended up going into drug treatment, because I couldn't do it on my own. But I knew that I was like, I'd hit my rock bottom, and I knew that this wasn't my life, and I wanted something different, and that's what really sparked that change. And then when I came out of treatment, I got divorced, got full custody of my kids, became a single father, started working out, started like moving my body, and feeling like freedom, I guess, feeling the wind blowing on my face and feeling these, because I was so numb for so many years that I didn't, you know, it was just about like, how am I going to get through this day, and how am I going to get this to sustain this, and blah, blah, blah. And then when I became sober, I was able to really start to experience life, go play tennis, go play volleyball, or whatever it was. And I just started feeling happiness. Like I was creating my own dopamine and oxytocin and all these things in my body that I was able to feel. And then, you know, so we'll skip forward another 10 years. This last relationship I was in, I was happy. It was good. It was a good life, but I was still that guy that was working 5 to sometimes 7 days a week. You know, I own a company that I do wildland firefighting, still do that. But it was just, I mean, year round, just grinding. And you know, it wasn't that I was in a bad relationship by any means, but I just was like, I would wake up and I would go to sleep, and throughout the day I was getting these, like, something speaking to me, just telling me this isn't it. There's more. You know, there's more out there. And then I started doing some like Wim Hof style of breathing. I ended up doing that for 5.5 years. I still do it, you know, and then that was like where I really got to, like, you can't hide in the water. You can't hide your breath holds underwater. You can't hide your feelings in ice, you know, freezing water. So I would go in there and I would feel the aches and the pains. And then I would, through my breath, I would learn to co-regulate my nervous system, slow my heart rate down, and try to reheat my body back up. And that's where the whole breath work and the health and wellness thing started really diving in. You know, I started switching my nutrition, and I was just fascinated by the breath. And then I came across this transformational 9D breath work, which is so much more extended than what the Wim Hof style of breathing that I had been doing. Because that was amazing, but it was 10 to 15 minutes. This is 45 minutes of active breathing with a 9-dimensional sound experience, you know, where you're getting NLP, hypnotherapy, bioacoustic sound waves, subliminal messaging. The music's tuned to 432 hertz, you know, which is supposed to be mathematically consistent with the universe. You know, all these things to kind of drop you down and quiet that inner critic monkey mind, tap into that subconscious. And then I went on that journey and came out of that just like, holy shit, you know. And that's when I just knew that there's so much more to this life than what I had been living. So much more. And then that sent me to Indonesia, and then and then Sacred Sons, and all these things just started falling around me. And then I started learning manifestation and like really getting clear on what I want, and not at all needing to know how it's going to happen, but just knowing that this is the path.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
In a nutshell, that's
in a nutshell. Thank you for sharing that. So were you like a blue collar worker before? Like, what was your 3D job?
Yeah, so I lived in Maui for 7 years. I worked at restaurants. I worked as a landscaper, and then I worked as a maintenance engineer at a resort. But yeah, and then then over here I worked at, you know, I mean, I've worked as a landscaper. I worked as a gas attendant. You know, I worked at a mill for years, and then just all over. Yeah, all blue collar stuff. Yeah.
Like, and then you're always trying to find the thing, right? But none of that was the thing.
Right.
And I asked that question because so many people who are watching or listening to this, they're still in that kind of 3D job. And maybe that's where they belong. You know, like, we need the plumbers, we need the electricians. But for many of us, it is something else. It is something that feels more transformational. It is something that changes our life. And then we get to overflow to the world around us and really be the pioneer, because the way that we're operating now, it's never been done before. It's like those old templates are gone. And so you really have to tune in order to allow yourself to access the bigger part of you that is the guidance. And that's what I love about the breath work. Something specifically around nursing comes in as you're talking about the breath work and clearing the trauma and really opening up the field. And that is, if you think of the access to information that we have as like a funnel, and you think of like, you know, less expansive frequencies down here at the tippy tip of the funnel. So this would be like the brain. This would be the knowledge that we have through studies. This would be, for instance, in a hospital, like lab results. All of that, like book knowledge, brain knowledge, is very limited. And so when we're looking at healing the physical body, and if all you're working with is the traditional Western medical system, your resources suck. Like there's hardly anything there for you. But then when you can raise the frequency through these practices like yoga and breath work and all the magic we're talking about, connecting with the earth, eating a healthy diet, eating living foods, you actually are able to tap in to a wider area of what's available to you, because that's where all the healing is. The healing's not in the mind, right? It's not in the lab results. It's not in the diagnosis. It's in the quantum fucking field. And if you will allow yourself to just be open to it, all the answers will come. Just breathe and soften. Breathe and soften. Yeah. It changed my life.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that, yeah, I think all the prescriptions and all the diagnoses of things, you know, in my opinion, it's all bullshit. Like we go into a doctor for feeling anxious and we get put on a anxiety pill. And then that pill, you know, whether it's a benzodiazepine, if it's a benzodiazepine, you're fucked, you know, because you're going to be chemically dependent on this. And then when you don't have it, you're going to be way more anxious than you ever were before when you went into the doctor, you know. And of course, it's a thing. People are anxious, you know, but when you can start tapping back into your body and into your breath and that connection, and you can learn these modalities, that can go away. It's not a life sentence. It doesn't have to be a life sentence. And these medications, you know, with big pharma, in my opinion, bullshit. You know, it's a way to control, and it's a way to make sure that you keep coming back. And it's this vicious cycle, you know. I mean, I don't even know if that's something that we need to be getting into, but yeah, I think the whole big pharma, fast food industry, all this bullshit that the news, the media, I don't watch any of it. I don't eat fast food. I don't go to the doctors. I don't do none of that shit. You know, I focus on the community that I want to build. I focus on yoga and breath work and music and movement and all this stuff. And that's all I need. That's all I want.
Yeah, we get to unplug. And if you'll just stop and take the time to breathe, all the guidance will come, right?
It really will. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. It's the most powerful thing I've ever done in my life is the breath work. You know, and there's so much joy and so many other things, music and dance and movement and yoga. There's all these are all very beautiful, and they're all crucial, you know, and qigong and, you know, all these other different things. They're very crucial and very important to do. But the breath work, the transformational breath work, when you really go in, I mean, it's an experience of a lifetime.
Will you share with us what that experience looks like? What sort of experience do you facilitate?
Yeah, so I bounce around to different yoga studios, wellness centers, things like that. I don't have my own studio because I don't want to be stale. I don't want to be in one spot. I want to just bounce. I want to float around. You know, I want to travel the world and spread the love, spread the breath medicine. So I just go all around to different cities that I'm at in different towns and go into a yoga studio. I'll give them like a 5-minute demo, kind of like you got to try, you know, or something like that. And okay, they get to hear the 9D layers. And then, and that's how I gain access to these studios. And then what the journeys look like, there's so many different journeys at this point, you know. Brian Kelly, you know, he's the creator of the 9D breath work, you know, and he's a great brother of mine, you know. I got to really hang out with him and do some breath work with him at his home in Bali and really dive into his core values as well. But the transformational breath work, it's absolutely insane. And it's a conscious connected style of breathing that allows access to the subconscious mind. And it's been proven now that once you get tapped into that subconscious mind, that theta brainwave state, that you can rewire your brain. And we do that through positive subliminal messaging and affirmations, you know. So it's like what these journeys look like is I'll bring people into a container. I'm always smudging, saging people as they enter. And then we start off with some real slow music. And then I start getting body movement. So I'll get up, I'll start moving around. We'll start doing some tapping, some shaking. And as we're doing this, that's when I get to explain what's going on. You know, like what this breath work is, what the contraindications are, what style of breathing we're going to be doing. If this comes up, like there's this thing called tetany, where it's also known as lobster claws, and your hands just start to constrict and they start to get really tight. It's been kind of looked at as on the holistic side as like some trauma that needs to get released. On the scientific side, is we're off gassing that carbon dioxide at such a high rate. Could be it too. But just to let people know that that's okay. Your arms aren't going to stay like that forever. It's just lean into the discomfort. If it gets to be too uncomfortable, switch to a nasal breathing. Come in through your nose, out through your mouth. Do this for about a minute. Your hands will come right back, and then you can switch to the active breathing. But this is where I get to explain everything, and then we jump in, after that, and they put on the headphones, eye mask. Everybody's in their own experience. So we can have 30 people in a room. And during these breathwork journeys, we have what's called a somatic scream. So after about 30 minutes of active breathing, some people, it's like 3 minutes, they get activated. They're already sweating. They're already in it. They're in a flow state. Some people, it takes, 10 to 12 minutes or so. But after about 10 to 12 minutes, like I said, we're temporarily shutting down blood flow to that prefrontal cortex, that inner critic monkey mind. We're constricting the 70,000 miles of blood vessels in our body. That monkey mind, that inner critic just becomes dormant. The first 10 to 12 minutes is what I tell people is the hardest, because you're going to have that inner critic saying, oh, this is too hard. We don't need to be breathing like this. We could be doing this. We could be doing this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, when those thoughts come up, just come back to your breath, just focus on your breath. And then that starts to quiet down. And then all of a sudden you see people get in this flow state where it looks like a wave. It's like their belly and their chest is just, and you're just coming into this nice flow state. And that's where you drop into the subconscious state. And that's where the magic happens, because that's where 90 to 95% of our traumas, limiting beliefs, negative thought behaviors, and patterns are all stored. So we bring that to the surface. And like Peter Levine and War Mate said, you don't have to relive your past traumas. You just have to have the capacity to feel. So that's all it is. The healing's in the feeling. Psychotherapy, you're coming from the top down. You're consciously having to think about it. And that's why it takes so many years. With somatic breath work, we're coming from the bottom up. So it's the healing is in the feeling. So we just have them feel it, bring it to the surface. When it comes, if it comes to be like, really overwhelming, just imagine yourself breathing into that emotion and coming out the other side of it, and then just coming back to your breath, but hold it up here, because we're going to let it go. We don't want to push it back down. So they bring all these feelings up, whatever it may be. And then we do a big breath hold, hold all the way at the top and squeeze your core. And then we guide them through these feelings. And then after about a minute or so, we're going to let this out with a massive scream. And there's a somatic scream. It's a cathartic emotional release. And it's where they just scream and yell and shout. And it's this huge release. And then you come back to your breath, and then we start to anchor it in with like visualizations, because you're still in this highly receptive state, so then we start talking about, we'll switch you over to a nasal breathing, nice, soft, calming breath. And then it's like, visualizing a moment of true freedom when you felt truly free, whether that was sometime in your past, maybe it was sometime recently, or maybe it's right now. A lot of the times for me, it's right now in that moment. I feel the most free I've ever felt. So that's, for me, that's what I grab a hold of. And then we just visualize that as a bright white light in front of our face. And we put that freedom into that ball, and then we suck that ball in and we hold it, and we just let it encapsulate in our body, So we do these exercises. We'll do about 2 or 3 of those, whether it's freedom, grace, love, whatever it may be. Maybe it's even meeting your future self. Because you're still in this state where it's pretty wild what you can visualize in these states. And then we come out of that, and then I'll put on a song, and I'll guide people to just, if they want to just lay in that moment and just soak it in, to go ahead. But as they start to feel ready to come to a very, soft seated position on the mat, and then I put journals out for everybody. And then we do 10 minutes of sacred silence where they get to just either write or draw whatever they want about their experience. And then we'll come into kind of a circle where, I'll do some check-ins with people, and then we go into nourishment, because you are hungry after these journeys. I mean, you just went through a massive thing. And then I got like a WhatsApp group going where everybody that comes to my classes, I put them in these WhatsApp groups. Now this group is just growing, it's becoming huge. And the amount of support that's in that group for anybody that, might be feeling some shit that came up a week later, 2 weeks later, they're like, hey, I had this come up, has anybody else had this? Now we have this group that's starting to connect and starting to build. And it's amazing.
Wow.
I don't want it to just be a breathwork session. Come in for one breathwork journey and then go on about your life after having this massive experience. I want this to be something that you keep coming back to, and something that you have people that are there for you,
Wow. That sounds magnificent. I'm here for that. Like, I am so here for that. If you're ever in like Indiana or the surrounding area, hit me up because I'm coming. Shit,
Definitely.
I'll fly to you. Okay, so I want to let everyone know that as we soak that deliciousness in, that sounds so freaking amazing. Thank you for providing this to humanity. So magical that if you are watching this live and you're in the group, I did a post with a link to a YouTube video where Calvin has gifted us just a little bitty taste of a breathwork session, just a little taste. And if you are listening to this or on another platform, I will link that in the description. Where is your next event? Do you have an event coming up?
Yeah, so I'm doing on the 16th, I'm doing an event for first responders. So it's going to be for firefighters, EMTs, police officers, and military. It's a nonprofit, no charge. I got a buddy of mine that actually is going to help me facilitate it. I'm going to be doing the breath work, and he's an amazing man. He's a certified weapons instructor under Tim Costa. If anybody's military out there, they'll know Tim Costa. But he's so unique. He was a full-time yoga teacher for 11 years, and he's been ordained as a monk. So he's like very unique man. So he's going to come in and with both of our backgrounds, we can really relate to this type of crowd.
Amazing.
So, yeah, we're going to be doing that. And then there's going to be so many more coming up.
Okay. So the general public can access you at Lean In Breathwork on Facebook and Instagram.
Correct.
Right. And then lots of amazing magic coming. That sounds like such an incredible experience. And I'm thinking of, so many of us we've been in hermit mode, right? Like everyone has been kind of in their own, catalyzed by the great healing of the vid. Everyone has been going inward, and I really have been in this space where I'm at home a lot. Or I'm with my kids, but I'm not really engaging. Like the bar scene, sure as F, does not resonate with me anymore. Just don't get out a lot. And I really am just now starting to feel the call to reach out and do things in the physical, and like not be so much committed to just the online space, but like really do my mission work in the physical. And so I've done a couple of events, but I think of, oh my gosh, like being in that space with you, with everyone breathing together in unison, like the amplification of the healing journey and the power within that is so, so amazing. Like I can feel it. I imagine for you as a facilitator that must be like a super cool, trippy experience to witness everyone with the synchronicity of their breath and stuff. Like, what's that like for you?
Yeah, it's emotional. Yeah, it is. It's such an honor, such a privilege to be able to hold a container like that and be able to hold space like that for people. I have been heavily involved with body work. I think that's one of the biggest things that I got out of this is that touch is so important. Like what is body work, right? It's communication without words. It's that empathic witness. They say a simple touch from another human can induce or trigger the release of oxytocin, which is the love hormone. And in these journeys, it's like, you're safe. I got you. You're not alone. I'm here with you. It can also help ignite the breath and bring it back. Sometimes they'll start to pitter out, and it's just kind of real slow. And as soon as I come up and just put my hands very lightly on your shoulder, they get right back into that active breathing. It's amazing, And then for trauma release, you'll see a lot of people. I always tell people the body's got infinite wisdom. And so I just sit back and I witness. And then I'll start to see as people get activated, they're going to take their hands, they're going to be pressing down on certain areas of their body, and there's something going on there. And then so I just come up and I start working that area. And that's where it's just so magical. It's so beautiful, you know, and that's what I tell people after every journey. I just sit there and I'm just like, I've been on both sides, you know, and I still am on both sides. I still breathe. I still do the breath work. I still do the journeys all the time. You know, I'm a firm believer in practice what you preach, you know, so anything that I ever tell somebody, I'm doing it. But with that being said, it's like, I know how emotional it is on the breathing side, but for me as a facilitator now on this side, it's just as emotional, you know, like I have tears and I'm like, it's so beautiful to watch, you know, and they say, with great, what is it? With great power comes great responsibility or something. And I just feel that so much, you know, it's such an honor to be in that space. And that's why I haven't even really like turned into this for the financial side of things. You know, it's more of like, I just want to spread the love. You know, I've been charging $50, you know, for people to come to my sessions, to group sessions, you know, and, but it's also like, I'm also doing sliding scale, or if somebody can't, you know, I'll do an energy exchange, you know, where there's something there. I just want everybody to be able to come in, to get in and to experience this, because this shift, like this could be the moment. Like, what if this is the moment that changes your whole life, you know?
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. What if this is the moment that could change the rest of your life? We just let that sink in. And as you talk about physical touch, I feel called to really lean into speaking directly to the people who are alone and who are lonely. I cannot imagine what the past 5 years of my so-called awakening journey would be like if I didn't have my little humans. They're not mine, but the precious humans, the little precious humans in my life here with me to engage with and to touch and to be present with and to have their support and to support them. And so if you are one of those people who is alone and feeling lonely, I'll encourage you to lean into the holy breath. And as you do that, know that you are tapping into the body's innate ability to heal. You're supporting your brain to balance, and you're tapping into the quantum field where all of the other people who are doing those things are dancing with you in the 5D, and the path will open for you. And the connections will naturally come into your life. You just have to say yes, lay that brick, right? We get to lay that brick and let prime creator, source, spirit, God, however you want to refer to it, match us like a million, a billion fold. Oh, wow. So amazing. Okay, so can you share with us what are some of the results that you've seen from the people that you have supported on this breathwork journey, as far as, you know, physical, how their lives have shifted? Does anything stand out to you that you can throw at us?
Yeah. I've been having I've been having quite a bit. So with the breath work, I'm also like at my house, I have a sauna and cold plunge, you know, so I'm building community with that too. And I do that like three days a week. You know, we'll do about 3 to 4 rounds in between the sauna and the ice. So I've had some people with severe PTSD coming over for that. And after about 3 sessions, I'm noticing massive shifts in people. But as far as like on just the breathwork spectrum of things, I had one that calls out to me right away would be a lady that she for 2 years has been having her blood panels have just been off the chart, just all over the place. And she was been trying nutrition. She's been trying like all these different fads and all these different things to try to figure out what it is. The doctors can't figure it out. She doesn't know what it is. And so she came in and did a breathwork journey. Just one breath. That's the only thing different, you know. She came in and did a heavy breathwork journey. She had a massive release. She was crying, screaming. There's all these things happening within her body. And then she came over to my sauna and she sat in the sauna and she's like, Calvin, I want to tell you something. I'm like, what's that? And she's like, I just went and had my blood work done today and it came back and everything was normal for the first time in 2 years. And she's like, the only thing that had changed was that I did your breath work, you know, and it just makes sense to me. And I mean, like I said, after this event down in San Diego that I was just at, hearing like the leaders in the trauma industry talk about somatics and how everything is connected here and we need to get back into our body. It's it. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. See, the doctors, the labs, like that's all so constricted and limited. And then you tap into the field and boom, something massive shifts. So I want to be you when I grow up. Like, how do you do all of this? Do you feel like you, with your practices, are able to stay in alignment and like really, like it sounds like you do so much. Like, how do you have the energy to do all of this in the time and the space?
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. I think it's just I've never felt so
Aligned
passionate about
actions.
something.
It's aligned.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
I've never felt so much. I've never felt like I feel like for the first time in my life that I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And I don't know what all it entails. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things coming as I continue on this journey, but yeah, there's no doubt to me. I really truly feel like everything that we need is within us, you know, and when we can tap into our bodies, we can heal ourselves. We can, and when we find happiness within ourselves, that's like the same with relationships, you know, as I've been in and out of relationships since I was 18 years old, since I had kids. And it was like, and then when I got back from Indonesia, that relationship had left, you know, like I said, you know, my life was like I imagined it as like a Lego house. You know, when I left Indonesia, it was like the Legos, whatever Legos were loose and that were falling, I was able just to sit back and witness. And that one of them was my relationship. And I was okay with it. I was like, this is okay. And then I got to be alone with myself and I got to sit in my own shit and deal with my own shit. And then and that's where the magic happened for me, you know, is we need to, in my opinion, I need to find happiness within myself and be able to be happy with me before I can even consider the other options, you know? So I really do feel everything that we need is within us once we can tap into our bodies and tap into ourselves. And then once we get that mind, body, soul connection, I mean, the breakthroughs are insane. The benefits are insane.
Yeah. So what comes through is that just a reminder to everyone that truly your external world is a reflection to the trauma that you still have present in your body, stored in every cell of your body, stored in your subconscious. And when you start intentionally accessing that through things like breath work, your whole world changes and your relationships change, right? When you can really be with yourself and get super comfortable with yourself, all of the codependency dissolves because we are raised to be in codependent
Yeah.
relationships. That it's that inverted matrix bullshit that we see our parents do and then we recreate in our lives. And when you can really be with yourself and work through that trauma and dissolve that trauma through these practices, what you are calling in and reflecting, it completely changes, doesn't it?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Everything changes. I mean, everything, like the whole world as I've known it has changed. You know, it's a whole different way. But it's through these practices. It's not easy. The breath work's not easy. You know, it's going to be
Right.
uncomfortable, but that's where we lean into that discomfort. I've had a person say that they got more out of one breathwork session than they got out of 10 years of psychotherapy. You
Oh, I
know,
believe that.
and
Totally.
it's such a deep dive, you know, that I mean, an hour and 15 minutes can literally change the trajectory of your life. You know, it can just be that little glimpse of like, whoa, that was different. You know, what's on the other side of that? I want more of that. I want to see what that's about. You know, but then it's like all the other things too. You know, it's the cold showers. It's the I had this watch this video and I tried it and it was truly amazing. But it was like when you wake up first thing in the morning, go into the mirror in your bathroom and look at yourself eye to eye contact and tell yourself that you love yourself 10 times. And then if you brush your teeth with your right hand, brush with your left. And then take 15 full activating breaths. Do that for like 30 days and watch how your life changes. And I was like, done, challenge accepted. And I did. And it was amazing. Like there's just doing by switching hands, it's doing something in your brain, you know, and by telling yourself you love yourself, there's the compassion, there's the gratitude, there's all these things that it's truly amazing. And so I still do it.
I love
I don't
that.
always switch hands, but yeah, I always go in the mirror and I always do the breath work. Yeah.
I really love that. Okay, so get up first thing in the morning. Everybody take notes and look in the mirror. Tell yourself I love you 10 times.
Yep.
brush with the opposite hand, brush your teeth with the opposite hand, or your hair if you need to ease into it.
Yeah.
And then did you say 30 breaths?
Even 15 to 20. Yeah. Just nice, full breaths. Just, and you could probably do it sitting down. I mean, lying down, whatever feels comfortable. It's sometimes the whole standing up, doing these big activating breaths, you can get pretty lightheaded, but we're not doing a breath hold. We're just doing deep breaths, getting that oxygen into your lungs, getting it into your body.
Ooh, I love that. I'm going to start doing that. I'll report back to you and let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. Let me know.
Great way to start your day. So skip the cup of coffee even, right? Like replace the cup of coffee with this, your whole day will change.
I stopped. I was doing like those little nicotine pouches because I was on, doing the wildland fires, being out in the woods with the boys, and like I just got bored and everybody was doing it, so I was like, yeah, why not? And then I ended up doing it for a couple of years, and then a year ago I was like, this is so dumb. Like I used to smoke when I was a kid, and I quit smoking a long time ago. Like, why would I be doing nicotine? So I stopped the nicotine, I stopped the caffeine. I started eating really healthy. And then now, like, my cup of coffee is when I get up and take that cold shower. I mean, it's such a massive release of dopamine that you get out of that cold shower and you're just like fired up and ready to go for whatever the day has for you,
Yeah, I always hit the cold. I always hit the cold at the end of my shower. And I feel the release. It sets the trajectory of your day. And I don't do it for that long. So know that if you're listening or watching, like, you could hit the cold at the end of your shower, at the beginning of your shower, and just count and shake your body. My kids laugh at me because they're like, oh God, mom's taking a cold shower again, because I'm like wailing in the shower, releasing, laughing, whatever. But it works. It works. It's so powerful. So you could try that too. Oh, this has been so amazing. I want to honor your time. We have just about 5 minutes, Calvin. And may I share with you what I've created for you?
Yes, please.
You don't know what this is, do you?
I have no idea.
It's not out of the bag yet. Nobody ever knows what I'm going to show them. So what I do is I actually create a water crystal while engaging with your content. And so what I did is, because you sent me that breath work, I sat down, I got a little petri dish of water, I held it next to my heart, and I just set the intention to kind of channel the frequency of your work into the water. And I held it and I did the whole breathwork session with that next to my heart. Then I wrote your name on the bottom of the petri dish and I stuck it in the freezer. So you want to see what came through?
I would love to.
It's always different. It's always magical. It's always unique to whoever I am engaging with. So this is, can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So isn't that interesting?
That is wild. Yeah, that is very interesting.
May I share what came through? So there's always some sort of intuitive hit that I get when I do this. I want to share with you what came through. When I looked at this, the first thing that I noticed is, first of all, the water is actually kind of risen up. Here, let me get another one. I want to show you a side view where you can actually look. Do you see how it's coming out of the water?
Yeah.
And I've seen this before. Not every water crystal does this, but I've seen this before from a couple of people, and I got hits around volcanoes. It was like Lemurian energy. Do you know what came through on this? Uluru. Have you ever been to Uluru?
I have not been to Uluru.
Okay. Well, maybe it's in your future, because that's literally the word that came through. Like, so it's a sacred site, right? In Australia. And it's like, I'm getting like mound energy. Like,
that's funny because there's a massive connection to Australia. Like, I'm literally I just talked to a guy before I got on this that's in Australia, and we're connecting this year. So I will be in Australia.
Yes. That is so cool. Okay. So here's another, I took multiple pictures of it and I'll send this to you. And you know what I'm seeing too? Like, the word that came through was density. I wrote it down. Density, grief, lungs. So it makes sense, right? Like, you're working with clearing trauma and grief. So I'm also getting kind of a nerve bundle vibe from this.
Yeah. I see that.
There's one with a little bit different lighting. Look at that. It's like a dense cluster. It's so interesting.
Yeah, that is wild. I like what I kind of get from that picture right there
Yeah.
is like an eyeball. And it's like how I was explaining seeing things from a different lens now, a different
Ooh, I
perspective.
like it. I love that. Very cool.
Hmm.
Okay. And oh, if you are listening to this, go to my YouTube page about 59 minutes in and you can see the visual. Wow, this has been so wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing space and time with us. I really appreciate you. I am celebrating you and witnessing you for the freaking amazing work that you're doing with the collective. It's just next level. Like, I'm like in awe, seriously. So thank you. Reminder to everyone, Lean In Breathwork is where you can access Calvin Livingston on Instagram and on Facebook. I'll make sure that links are available to all of you. Is there anything that you want to say in closing?
Whoever tries the 5-minute breathwork activation that is in your chat there, just remember to it's an active inhale and a passive exhale. So a full diaphragmatic breath, starting low and coming all the way up, and then release. Get into a flow. No hold at the top, no hold at the bottom. Just try to get into a flow state. It's 2 2-minute rounds with a 1-minute breath hold in between. If you breathe deep and you go for it, you'll notice it in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, it'll move. It shifted something massive in me when I did it this morning. I cried. So if you feel like you need a good shift and a good cry and clear some trauma, do it. You will love it.
Yeah. It's activating the sympathetic nervous system, quieting the mind, getting into the body. Yes.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Appreciate all of you so much. Now go drink your water. Bye, everyone.
Yes. See ya.